Imagine waking up every morning to discover that one machine earned $400,000 while you were sleeping. It sits far from land, surrounded by open ocean and supported by thousands of tons of steel. Oil companies rent it because reaching resources beneath the seabed requires equipment few businesses can provide. As long as your rig remains operational, the customer may pay hundreds of thousands of dollars every day. At first, it looks like the ultimate rental business. Buy the machine, secure a contract, and collect more money each month than most companies earn in years. But that machine may cost $500 million before completing its first successful well. It requires highly trained workers, constant maintenance, specialized ships, and enormous quantities of fuel. A mechanical failure can stop your revenue immediately, even while your operating expenses continue growing. And when the oil industry slows down, your valuable rig may spend years waiting for another customer. So how does an offshore oil rig actually make money? Where do the hundreds of millions in revenue go? And how can one of the most advanced machines ever built become nearly worthless without ever sinking? To answer that, we first need to understand what an oil rig owner is really selling. Most drilling companies do not own the oil hidden beneath the seabed. The rights usually belong to a government, national oil company, or energy corporation exploring a particular region. That company studies the geology, chooses the drilling location, and accepts the possibility of discovering nothing useful. The rig owner provides the equipment and expertise needed to reach several kilometers beneath the ocean floor. This means that owning a drilling rig is not exactly the same as owning an oil company. It is closer to operating one of the world's most expensive equipment rental businesses. The customer hires the rig, its drilling systems, and the specialized crew required to operate everything safely. In return, the drilling company is usually paid a fixed amount for every working day. That payment is known as the day rate. A modern offshore rig might earn several $100,000 for each day it remains under contract. At $400,000 per day, 1 month of operation creates roughly $12 million in revenue. Keep the rig working for an entire year, and annual revenue can move beyond $100 million. The customer might discover a massive oil field worth billions. It might also spend millions drilling into rock that contains very little commercially useful oil. Either way, the rig owner can still receive the agreed day rate while the equipment performs correctly. The oil company carries most of the risk connected to what lies underground. The drilling company carries the risk of keeping an enormous industrial machine available above it. That distinction makes the business attractive, but it does not make the business easy. Before earning $1, the owner must first obtain a rig capable of winning valuable contracts. There are several major types, and each one is designed for different water depths and operating conditions. A jackup rig is commonly used in shallower water. It travels while floating, then lowers enormous steel legs until they reach the seabed. The platform lifts itself above the surface, creating a stable working area protected from ordinary waves. Because it operates closer to shore, a jackup is generally cheaper than a deepwater drilling vessel. However, even a relatively modest offshore unit can still cost tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. A semi-submersible rig works differently. It floats on large submerged structures that sit beneath the movement of the surface water. This design makes it more stable in rough seas and allows it to operate in deeper locations. Then there is the drill ship, one of the most impressive machines in the entire energy industry. A drill ship resembles an enormous cargo vessel with a drilling tower rising through its center. It can travel between projects under its own power and operate in water thousands of meters deep. Instead of attaching itself directly to the seabed, it may use computer-controlled thrusters to hold its position. Those thrusters continuously fight against wind, waves, and currents, pushing the vessel away from the well. The ship must remain aligned with an opening on the seabed far below the surface. A small positioning error could damage equipment connecting the vessel to the well. This level of precision requires advanced navigation, powerful engines, and multiple backup systems. It also helps explain why the newest deepwater rigs can cost several $100 million. The hull is only one part of the investment. The owner also needs generators, cranes, pumps, pipes, control rooms, and pressure management equipment. The vessel needs communication systems, fire protection, emergency power, and living quarters for the crew. It requires warehouses containing spare components that might be difficult to obtain in the middle of the ocean. One of the most important pieces of equipment is the blowout preventer. This enormous system sits around the well and is designed to control unexpected pressure from underground. During an emergency, it must be capable of sealing the well before oil or gas escapes uncontrollably. A blowout preventer can contain thousands of components, each requiring inspection, testing, and careful maintenance. The owner cannot purchase an ordinary rig and expect it to work for every customer. A contract in the North Sea may require different equipment from one near Brazil or West Africa. Some locations experience extreme weather, while others require drilling through especially difficult geological formations. Customers may request new pumps, upgraded pressure systems, or more advanced environmental protections. The owner may spend millions modifying the rig before the contract officially begins. Sometimes the customer helps cover those upgrades, but the owner may still provide much of the initial investment. By the time the vessel becomes operational, the company may owe banks hundreds of millions of dollars. That debt appears manageable when the rig is earning a strong day rate. The problem begins when the contract ends before a new customer is ready. An offshore rig with no contract does not become inexpensive simply because it stops drilling. The loan payments continue, insurance remains necessary, and maintenance cannot be ignored forever. This is why the contract attached to a rig can be more valuable than the rig itself. Oil companies examine much more than the daily price when choosing a drilling partner. They study the rig's age, technical capabilities, accident history, and past reliability. They evaluate the crew, management systems, and ability to complete complicated wells without costly delays. A modern rig may offer better performance and operate in deeper water. However, it may also require a much higher day rate to justify its enormous construction cost. An older rig may be cheaper, but customers could consider it less reliable or technically unsuitable. Once selected, the rig may receive a contract covering one well or several years of continuous work. A longer agreement provides predictable income and protects the owner from temporary market weakness. A shorter agreement may offer flexibility, but it forces the owner to find another customer sooner. Now imagine owning a drill ship contracted at $400,000 per day. If it earns the full rate for 330 days, yearly revenue reaches about $132 million. That number makes the business look incredibly profitable. But revenue is only the money entering the company. It tells us almost nothing about how much remains after operating the machine. A large offshore rig may require more than 100 workers across several rotating shifts. The crew can include drillers, engineers, mechanics, electricians, crane operators, and safety specialists. Medical personnel remain available because transporting an injured worker to land may take several hours. Cooks, cleaners, and support workers keep the vessel functioning like a small industrial town. Workers usually spend weeks offshore before another team replaces them. The company must transport each rotation using helicopters or specialized vessels. It must provide accommodation, protective equipment, food, and continuous safety training. Offshore jobs can also require high salaries because the work is demanding and potentially dangerous. Fuel creates another enormous expense. The engines generate electricity for nearly every system operating across the rig. On a drill ship, they may also power the thrusters holding the vessel above the well. These engines can run continuously, consuming fuel even while the drilling equipment experiences delays. Supply ships travel between the rig and shore, carrying pipes, tools, food, and replacement components. Helicopters, transport workers, inspectors, and emergency personnel. Shore-based teams manage logistics, contracts, engineering support, and compliance with local regulations. Then there's maintenance. An offshore rig spends its entire working life surrounded by salt water. Salt water attacks steel, damages electronics, and creates corrosion in places that may be difficult to inspect. The drilling equipment operates under heavy pressure and constant vibration. Pumps wear out, valves fail, and engines require rebuilding. Cranes need testing. Pipelines require inspection, and emergency systems must remain functional at all times. Maintenance cannot simply wait until something breaks. A failure several hundred kilometers from land is far more complicated than a failure inside an ordinary factory. Specialists may need to fly offshore, while replacement parts arrive on a dedicated supply vessel. Depending on the rig, direct costs may consume a significant portion of the daily revenue. Suppose our rig costs $200,000 per day to operate. Across 330 working days, direct expenses would reach approximately $66 million. The original revenue was $132 million. After direct operating expenses, around $66 million remains. That still sounds excellent, but the owner has not finished paying the bills. There may be interest on the debt used to build or purchase the rig. The company has administrative expenses, taxes, regulatory fees, and engineering teams working on future contracts. The vessel also becomes older every year, reducing its accounting value and possibly its attractiveness to customers. Major inspections can require removing the rig from service and sending it to a shipyard. Workers may dismantle equipment, replace worn machinery, and upgrade safety systems. A major maintenance program can cost tens of millions of dollars. During that period, the rig may receive little or no normal operating revenue. This is why utilization is one of the most important measurements in the entire industry. A rig capable of earning $400,000 per day earns nothing without a paying customer. Even under contract, it may not receive the full day rate during every interruption. When equipment fails, the customer may reduce its payment until the rig returns to normal operation. Under certain contracts, serious downtime can reduce the rate to zero. Imagine losing the full day rate for 10 days. That removes $4 million in expected revenue. 30 days of downtime removes $12 million. The situation becomes worse because many expenses continue while the rig is inactive. The crew still needs salaries, food, and accommodation. Fuel may still be consumed, and the company now faces an expensive repair. Revenue falls at the exact moment operating costs begin rising. This produces an important rule within the offshore drilling business. The most profitable rig is not always the newest or most technically impressive one. It is the rig that remains contracted, reliable, and billable for the greatest number of days. An older platform with a secure 5-year agreement may outperform a brand new vessel searching for work. The contract turns industrial machinery into predictable cash flow. Without that contract, the rig becomes an extremely expensive object waiting in the ocean. Even a reliable rig eventually reaches the end of its agreement. The next customer may operate in the same region, but it could also be thousands of kilometers away. A vessel finishing a project in Brazil might receive its next contract near the coast of Africa. Moving the rig between regions requires planning, fuel, crew, and regulatory approval. A drill ship can travel under its own power, while other units may need powerful towing vessels. The equipment must be prepared for the next location and the next customer. Different countries use different rules, certifications, and environmental requirements. Crew members may need visas, medical examinations, or additional training. This preparation process is called mobilization. A customer may reimburse part of the cost, especially when moving the rig a long distance. However, mobilization can still take weeks or months before normal drilling revenue begins. The owner may have secured a valuable contract, but must spend millions before collecting the full day rate. Still, traveling to another project is far better than having no project at all. When a rig becomes unemployed, the owner must choose how much money to keep spending on it. The first option is warm stacking. A warm stacked rig is inactive, but retains enough workers and equipment to restart relatively quickly. Essential systems continue operating, while a reduced crew protects and maintains the vessel. This approach is expensive, but it keeps the rig prepared if a customer appears soon. The second option is cold stacking. Most systems are shut down, and the majority of the crew leaves. The vessel enters a form of industrial hibernation intended to reduce daily expenses. Cold stacking saves money in the short term, but restarting the rig can become extremely costly. Equipment deteriorates, certifications expire, and experienced workers accept jobs elsewhere. Technology advances while the vessel remains inactive. Customers may begin demanding systems the older rig does not have. Returning a cold-stacked vessel to service may require extensive repairs and upgrades. The owner could spend tens of millions of dollars without knowing whether the rig will secure enough work. This creates a difficult decision. Should the company continue investing in an aging asset or accept that its commercial life has ended? Some rigs are sold to smaller operators that believe they can find lower value contracts. Others are converted for different industrial purposes. Many eventually travel to scrapyards, where workers dismantle machines that once cost hundreds of millions. The rig may still be physically capable of drilling. It becomes worthless because customers no longer want to pay enough for its services. This is where oil prices enter the story. The drilling company normally does not receive more money when a well produces more oil. Its income is determined mainly by the contract rather than the number of barrels discovered. If oil prices rise during a fixed agreement, the day rate may remain unchanged. The oil company receives most of the additional value from the stronger market. However, the same contract can temporarily protect the rig owner when prices fall. The customer may continue paying the agreed rate until the contract expires. For a while, the drilling company appears protected from the oil market. Then the agreement ends. When oil prices remain weak, producers reduce spending and postpone expensive offshore projects. Fewer projects mean fewer wells, and fewer wells mean less demand for drilling rigs. Several owners may begin competing for the same small number of contracts. Customers negotiate lower day rates and demand better equipment. Newer rigs win the best projects, while older units remain unemployed. The rig owner does not sell oil directly, but its future still depends on the economics of producing oil. The company is protected from the result of one unsuccessful well. It is not protected from the decline of the entire drilling market. This weakness became impossible to ignore after the oil price collapse that began in 2014. During the years before the crash, offshore drilling companies expanded aggressively. Oil was expensive, exploration budgets were large, and modern rigs received impressive day rates. Banks provided billions of dollars to finance new vessels. Companies believed that future contracts would easily cover the debt. One of the largest operators, Seadrill, built and purchased an enormous fleet. Its modern rigs were valuable, while oil companies continued approving deepwater projects. Then energy prices fell, and producers began cutting their spending. Projects were postponed, contracts disappeared, and rigs that once earned hundreds of thousands per day became inactive. The debt used to build those vessels did not disappear. Interest continued accumulating while revenue declined. In 2017, Seadrill entered bankruptcy protection and began restructuring billions of dollars in obligations. The company still owned valuable equipment. The rigs had not suddenly lost the physical ability to drill. What failed was the financial structure built around them. The machines were purchased under the assumption that strong demand would continue. When the market changed, the same assets that created enormous revenue became enormous liabilities. This reveals another danger hidden inside the industry. During a boom, high day rates encourage every company to order more rigs. Building a deepwater vessel can take several years. By the time those rigs are completed, the conditions that justified ordering them may have disappeared. The industry can begin construction when demand is strongest. It may receive the finished vessels when demand is already collapsing. The result is too many rigs competing for too little work. Financial risk is not the only danger surrounding these machines. Offshore drilling also carries the possibility of a catastrophic operational failure. In April 2010, the Deepwater Horizon was drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. The rig was owned by Transocean and operating for BP. An uncontrolled blowout triggered explosions and a massive fire. 11 workers were killed, and the vessel sank 2 days later. Oil continued escaping from the damaged well beneath the water. The disaster caused extraordinary environmental damage and years of legal consequences. The rig itself was insured, but insurance could not reverse the loss of life or environmental destruction. It could not instantly restore trust in the companies connected to the operation. This is why safety is not simply another cost within the drilling business. Safety is one of the main products the owner sells. Customers are not only renting steel engines and drilling equipment. They are hiring a crew, maintenance system, and operating culture. They want confidence that the well will be controlled and the project will avoid a disaster. A strong safety record helps a company win future contracts. A serious accident can damage relationships across the global energy industry. It may also destroy an asset worth hundreds of millions within a matter of hours. So, can owning an oil rig actually make someone rich? Under the right conditions, the business can produce extraordinary returns. Imagine purchasing a modern drill ship without taking on excessive debt. The vessel secures a multi-year contract at a strong day rate. The customer helps pay for mobilization and specialized upgrades. The crew operates safely, and the equipment experiences very little downtime. Before the existing agreement ends, another customer books the vessel for several more years. In that situation, one rig can generate hundreds of millions in contracted revenue. A well-managed fleet can create a company worth billions. Long agreements also allow the owner to plan maintenance and manage debt more confidently. Now consider the opposite outcome. The company buys an older rig using a large amount of borrowed money. Its current contract ends just as oil companies begin reducing exploration spending. The vessel spends several months warm-stacked while management searches for another customer. No acceptable contract appears, so the owner places it into cold storage. 2 years later, demand finally begins recovering. Unfortunately, customers now prefer newer rigs with better equipment and stronger efficiency. Reactivating the old vessel may cost $40 million. Even after spending that money, there's no guarantee it will receive a profitable contract. Interest has continued accumulating while the rig has continued aging. Eventually, the debt attached to the vessel may exceed what the vessel is worth. The owner must either invest even more money or sell the asset for a fraction of its original cost. The exact same rig can therefore be a remarkable cash machine in one market. In another market, it becomes a financial burden, consuming money every day. Nothing important may have changed about the physical vessel. What changed was the world surrounding it. Owning an offshore rig is a bet that several conditions will remain aligned. Oil companies must believe that new offshore projects will be profitable. Your rig must have the technology those projects require. The customer must select your vessel instead of a competitor's. The day rate must cover fuel, maintenance, workers, debt, and future upgrades. The equipment must keep operating, and the crew must complete the job safely. Finally, the next contract must arrive before the current one ends. When those pieces come together, a rig can earn hundreds of thousands of dollars every day. When one critical piece disappears, the financial structure can deteriorate with surprising speed. The real business is not discovering oil. The energy company carries most of that risk. The real business is not simply purchasing an impressive vessel either. Anyone with enough financing can become the owner of an expensive machine. The real challenge is keeping that machine useful, safe, and continuously employed. Because the oil beneath the seabed might be worth billions. But for the company that owns the rig, one resource matters more than anything underground: another paid day.